Right, so welcome guys. Today I'm going to basically be showing you how to do your own worm tea. Now, the ingredients are very simple. The hardest part depends on whether you have your own worm farm or not going. So if you don't, you're going to have to buy your worm castings from somewhere, or have a friend who has the castings that they'll be willing to give you. But the basic ingredients you're going to need is you're going to need worm castings, and this recipe is kind of like a simple basic one. It's 2 cups of castings, right? You're going to need black molasses, all right? It's crude molasses, and you're going to have 2 tablespoons of that minimum. Okay, what the molasses does is it acts as a energy booster. So it's like sugar for the body. It's a booster for healthy microorganisms to, multiply, become stronger, and be more predominant within your tea. And you're going to need a bucket of water. Okay, I've got a 50 ml, sorry, not 50 ml, 5 gallon, and it's 25 liters, and that's unchlorinated water. Now, it has to be unchlorinated water. So what you normally can do is, if you want to, there's the process of getting tablets for it, whereas I've just left mine overnight for 24 hours. And that gets rid of all the chlorine. And you try and leave it in the sun if you're going to do it the natural way. All right. And the water is basically, obviously, the medium that you're making your tea with. And then you're going to need a bubbler so that you can oxygenate the water, because the microbes in your castings require oxygen in order to survive. They're a living bacteria, a living organism in a sense, so they require oxygen. And that's also the reason why it needs to still stay damp as well, because they require water in a sense as well in order to keep themselves going too. So you need your damp castings, okay, damp preferably, molasses, a bubbler, and your unchlorinated water. And what you're going to do is you're going to leave this overnight for 24 hours, and basically after that it'll be done. Some people say 12 hours you can get it done by, that's the minimum. I normally just do 24 hours, and basically from there I use it. Sorry, my cat is just getting itself involved in the video. So yeah, so the simple steps is I will put the bubbler in first. Oh, just another thing, you can use a mesh cloth like this. Okay, it's actually pretty good for keeping all the castings in your net instead of going into the bucket. I've gotten used to just throwing my castings into the bucket straight, whereas if you use this, it kind of just gets held within here. All right, and it like dissolves. Basically, the nutrients that you are actually getting out of the worm tea have dissolved from the castings itself. And what will happen is you'll still be left with some of these chunky pieces, okay, which is the spent pieces, and you can just throw those into your garden. I still think that there's a bit of nutrients left with the breakdown process of the thicker stuff, so I just throw it back into the garden so they can break down naturally. But what will happen is you will find that a lot of this more heavier stuff or thicker stuff will be caught in this net, and the stuff that actually gets dissolved will have obviously dissolved out, but you'll probably find that this will drop down to a third of its quantity, so you'll have that much left in the net possibly. All right, depending on the quantity that you're putting in. So 2 cups, you're going to have a third of 2 cups left behind, I would say. And then what you would do with this kind of netting is you just dunk it in the water and make sure that it's sitting at the top area the most, because what will happen is all the bubbles will come up and just jumble that around quite easily. Whereas with mine, I have to make sure that I put these stones all the way down to the bottom so that they actually push around my castings as well a bit. So I put mine on quite a high bubbling level from the machine so that it literally can force the castings to move around and jumble around. It's not very, very necessary, but it is a good idea to have it, because the more it actually turns around, or shall we say moves the castings around, the more nutrients that get absorbed into the water. It's just like when you're stirring sugar in your tea. The more you stir it, the more the sugar dissolves. The less you stir it, the less sugar that gets dissolved in your tea. Okay, so as you can see, I've put my bubbler in. Okay, I'm just going to put power. Okay, so this is what occurs when you put the bubblers in. I'm going to put my molasses in next. Okay, now I like putting the molasses first after the bubbler, because basically what will happen is it awards the molasses time to disperse around in the water, not just straight away in one spot and the rest of the water doesn't get, not necessarily saying that it doesn't in fact occur during time passing, but it's just how I prefer doing it. It just guarantees a balanced spread. Now that that's going, you see you got your white bubbles coming up. That is a very good sign as well, because then there's no residual chlorine in the system. Then I'm going to add my castings. Now I'm doing a very concentrated tea, because I require a large quantity of highly nutriated water, because some of my plants are passing away. I need to put some nutrients back in. So I've done 4 tablespoons instead, okay, and I'm doing 4 cups of castings. Now I did say the recipe is 2 to 2 and then 25 liters or 5 gallon. That's the traditional way of going for it, so it's just a nice balanced tea, whereas I'm making a very concentrated mix, because I want to get maximum amount of nutrition for my plants out of this one go. Okay, so I've just added, as you can see, my castings, and it's all floating, so it's okay that it floats, because eventually what will happen is it'll get really wet and drenched, and it will actually just fall to the bottom, and that is it. So it's quite simple. It's very simple process for making worm tea. Now I'm just going to leave it for 24 hours. Okay, and what I'll do is I'll show you a viewing of it later, tomorrow, once it's actually completed. All you're going to see necessarily is that the water is going to change color to a murky brown, maybe light yellow, depending on how much nutrients you've put in, as well as how much nutrients are in the castings. And yeah, that'll basically be it. And then all you do is you're going to take that tea or the water. It's up to you if you want to strain it. I never strain it. Push it to another bucket so that I can pour it into my plants. And then I take the rest of the castings from the bottom, and as I said, throw it into the garden, because I still think there's nutrients in it. And it's that simple. It really is. So I'll show you tomorrow what it looks like, and then yeah, that'll be it.